Durban 1 was intended to be a wonderful thing, a conference to fight hatred and racism in this world, and it turned into what the Canadian government called a hate fest. Countries walked out, the United States walked out. Copies of the Protocols of the Elders of Zion were handed out. A Holocaust denial program was canceled because they couldn't secure it. People were carrying pictures of Adolf Hitler and swastikas. Durban 2, which most of the free world did not attend, had one featured speaker, our good friend, the anti-American, anti-Semitic, homophobic president of Iran, who used the occasion to deny the Holocaust. And I frankly don't think that that's something that we ought to be celebrating the 10th anniversary of. Hatred, racism, bigotry, and prejudice ought to be abhorred, and no less so when they're directed at Jews.
How can educated people today believe the nonsense spewed by BDS about Israel? Well, that shouldn't surprise you either. Some of history's most influential thinkers and writers, Voltaire, Dostoevsky, T.S. Eliot, and many, many others, spread the most preposterous lies about the Jewish people. It's hard to shed prejudices that have been ingrained in consciousness over millennia. And from antiquity to the Middle Ages to modern times, Jews were boycotted, discriminated against, and singled out. Today, the singling out of the Jewish people has turned into the singling out of the Jewish state. So you see, attempts to boycott, divest, and sanction Israel, the most threatened democracy on earth, are simply the latest chapter in the long and dark history of anti-Semitism. Those who wear the BDS label should be treated exactly as we treat any anti-Semite or bigot. They should be exposed and condemned. The boycotters should be boycotted.
If you boycott against Israel, New York will boycott you. If you divert revenues from Israel, New York will divert revenues from you. If you sanction Israel, New York will sanction you. Period.
What happened today in the UN? The United States blocked the attempt in the Security Council to hold Israel accountable. It's always done that. It's going to continue to do that. You see, as long as the Israeli lobby has the financial power to elect the United States Congress and the President of the United States, the American government will do nothing. The United States would have to take AIPAC and make it register as a foreign agent so that it couldn't purchase our elections. But if it did that, they would just create another organization.
I imagine you're talking about AIPAC here?
Yes. So as long as they own the Congress, they own the government. They own the presidency. Look who's the chief of staff of the White House. So you've got, there's nothing going to be done about this. And what's happening, in fact, everybody's now saying, oh, there's two sides to the story. So you've already bought the Israeli propaganda.
This week, a man named Charles Freeman, a man with a long and distinguished career in the U.S. Foreign Service, withdrew his name from consideration to be the chairman of the National Intelligence Council, a key intelligence job. In doing so, he blamed, and I quote here, the Israel lobby for his decision to pull his own nomination. He accused the so-called Israel lobby of character assassination, a willful distortion of the record, and an utter disregard of the truth. Strong charges. His opponents, of course, had strong charges of their own, accusing him of anti-Israeli bias, even anti-Semitism. To answer these charges and to discuss these issues, Charles Freeman, is my guest today. Now, in making these accusations, Freeman has pushed to the forefront a topic that previously had been discussed only among academics, policy wonks, and bloggers. And even there, it's been controversial. The basic charge is that lobbies supporting Israel wield too much power, which results in the U.S. blindly supporting Israel even when it's wrong.
I don't think that I've been in any respect excessively or unreasonably critical of Israel. I think I have been critical of Israeli policy. And the atmosphere is such in this country now that whereas Israelis in Israel routinely criticize policies they think may prove to be suicidal for their country, those who criticize the same policies here for the same reasons are subject to political reprisal.
But your feeling is that you could see the hand of supporters of Israel, supporters of the right wing in Israel, as you describe it, in derailing your nomination or raising the controversy. You said in your statement, you said the emails make it clear, the blogs make it clear.
No, and this morning, indeed, there were various postings by the organizations that organized the campaign, the Zionist Organization of America, for example, detailing or setting out in considerable detail how they organized research to find material that they could use to agitate first congressmen who were sympathetic to them and later others on various issues. And of course they do not admit, but it is a fact that they engaged in a truly libelous campaign of selective misquotation and distortion and fabrication of facts that are absolutely not real.
Let me just read the quote, because I think many people will want to hear more about how you think about this. You said, "We have paid heavily and often in treasure in the past for unflinching support and unstinting subsidies of Israel's approach to managing its relations with the Arabs. 5 years ago, we began to pay with the blood of our citizens here at home." And the 5 years ago, of course, refers to 9/11. So you see our support for Israel as having produced a kind of a tidal wave of hostility that then in some way did cause 9/11. Isn't it fair to say?
I think we are paying a price because our actions have catalyzed, perhaps not caused, but catalyzed a radicalization of Arab and Muslim politics that facilitates the activities of terrorists with global reach like those who struck us on 9/11.
You and I got into this on my radio show, and I am shocked, frankly disappointed, and these remarks sound like the conspiratorial, anti-Semitic remarks of people that we have heard from over the years. And what you said was, quote, talking about Israel and, quote, Jewish people, they're controlling much of our foreign policy, they're influencing much of our domestic policy. What do you mean by that? Because that sounds to me like a bizarre conspiracy theory. Why would you say something like that when it's just, first of all, patently untrue?
Number one, I served in Congress for 17 years. I've seen members question bills and votes on how does Israel feel about this. I must have heard that every time there was a significant vote. But Israel, through its lobby, has manifested so much power over the United States Congress that we're embroiled in wars that I don't believe we should be. Our kids are coming back in body bags. And in the long run, this Israeli lobby is going to hurt Israel. So as soon as you mention Israel, someone claims you're an anti-Semite. The truth of the matter is, I'm pro-American, Sean, and I don't like, hear me. Hear me. I don't like what's happening in America today.
All right, that's fair.
Our kids are coming back in body bags.
Wait a minute, but you're saying
we're bankrupt, completely broke.
But you're suggesting here that we're fighting wars on behalf of Israel. But you just mentioned the 9/11 attacks.
I think a lot of that has been influenced by Israel.
Hear me now, Congressman.
But our policies in the Mideast have been so one-sided and subjective. Without objectivity, we've created so many enemies, the only way they can strike back is we've imported the terrorists from those actions.
Wait a minute.
So if you question it, you're saying you're an anti-Semite.
No, that's not what you did. That's not what you said. You said they're controlling our foreign policy. They're controlling our domestic policy.
Yes, and I believe they are.
Hear me now.
I believe they control the Senate and the House Foreign Affairs Committee.
That's insane.
And they're controlling our foreign policy.
Congressman, that's conspiratorial nutjob stuff.
I know you need ratings, but just hold it.
I have ratings.
I'm not saying we should be friends over there with anybody. I'm saying we should be objective. We have developed serious enemies from a one-sided policy. And yes, I believe Israel, through their lobby, has manifested total power of the Congress of the United States. Total power. And my concern is that taxpayers and the citizens of the United States should control their government, not a foreign entity.
To suggest, as you're doing here tonight, that they control our Congress, that, quote, they are influencing and the sole control of influencing of our domestic policy, is an absurdity. It sounds like you are a kook.
Sean, I'm not suggesting it. I'm telling it. Yes, I believe they manifest a great power over America. Let me also say, in the last 4 years, there are 2 separate incidents of AIPAC spying on America. We even conducted a search warrant on AIPAC headquarters. Now, I don't like what's going on here. All I'm telling you is, I'm concerned about America. You and I might disagree.
Will you back down from, quote, they are controlling much, meaning the Israelis, they are controlling much of our foreign policy. Will you back off that statement?
No, I don't.
All right, then we disagree. Congressman, thanks for being with us.